Hi guys, so I am back for a video that, to be quite honest with you, I am slightly afraid of doing. You guys have asked for this video quite a lot, and I have talked about this in French before, and every time I haven't uploaded that many videos about this subject, but each time I did, I would receive more than a couple of comments in English asking me to address the issue or talk about this in English and I never really did so because I feel like a lot of people that follow me or that that watch my content in French are people who kind of feel a similar way when it comes to feminism, and with whom it's easier to say those things. And I feel like the French world hasn't been contaminated as much as the English-speaking world has been by the gender ideology. And I'm sure that even just saying this, a lot of people are going to roll their eyes and be like so offended and shocked and surprised and even upset that I would say those words. And I would just ask you to really listen to the whole video and not forget who I am and what I stand for and what I have done over the years and what I've said over the years online. And you are obviously completely free to disagree with me, and that's not really an issue, but I just wish I could explain. Not explain, but I just wish my point of view and my perspective, which is the one of many women as well, could be understood and listened to and accepted as well, because it's a very logical. I'm not saying I hold the absolute truth or anything, but I'm just saying what we're saying is very logical and we're never really listened to, and the arguments that we bring to the table are often overlooked. Every time we have this kind of discussion or that kind of debate, the arguments that we bring forwards are completely ignored, because really it's very difficult to answer those arguments. But I hope that you guys won't be that type of people, So, okay, gender. How do I feel about gender? Because that's what this video is about. So, I do subscribe to the strict difference between gender and sex. And sex is a biological reality. I know some people are gonna comment on like sex is also a spectrum, and the binary of sex is also a social construct. I disagree with that. Science disagrees with that, and that's not because you've read somewhere 2 or 3 people that are scientists that will, or that are familiar with science, that have published a book or maybe an article somewhere that say that it's not a binary, that it means it's not. Science has backed this up for forever, and just logic and some common sense do that as well. The way we reproduce as human beings is based on the binary, and most people fall under this binary. We are either female or male, and there are, yes, indeed, intersex people, but intersex people are different. They're completely different from trans people and trans activism and anything like that. It's a completely different subject, and I feel that the way it's oftentimes used by a lot of trans activists is a very disgusting thing, and it's very disrespectful and distasteful as well. So yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to say. So yeah, sex is a binary, and we have male and female, and that's what the overwhelming majority of the population falls into. What is gender then? I used to think at some point in my life that gender was indeed a feeling and that we had a gender identity, because I never really questioned the fact that people felt a certain way, and therefore when people would come up to me, or whenever I would watch documentaries or listen to people's experiences or watch creators on YouTube that are transgender and will tell you about how they feel and how gender is to them, it never, I guess maybe I was very naive, or maybe I just, I don't know what it was, but I never questioned any of that. I think partly it was because at the time where I was first introduced to this, it was years and years ago, trans activism was very different. Trans people were also very different. And I never felt like those people were hurtful or threatening in any way. I never felt like they were trying to invade women's spaces or trying to prevent women from expressing themselves or using certain words. I just felt like, you know, they just wanted what everybody should have, which is to be safe, to be protected by law, to have decent human rights, to have the, you know, the right to have a job, to have an education. They wanted to have safer and more affordable ways to go to transition, and all of that I do subscribe to. I have nothing against transgender people, and I don't think but once again, I would rather call them transsexual now because of what I think of gender. But, you know, and I do agree that they need to be protected. I do know that they're a minority, that they're a huge victim of male violence. I know that homophobia also comes into play with that. I know that transphobia is real. And I don't care if anybody wants... I mean, I really don't think we should force people into thinking differently if they feel like they're trans, right? That's not what I'm about. But I think that nowadays the situation is very different. Trans doesn't really mean anything. Anybody can say they're trans just because they don't want to be referred to as a certain pronoun, or because they have cut their hair and dyed their hair a certain way. Any person that tries to ask for a certain definition of transgender or transsexuality are accused of gatekeeping, as if gatekeeping were a really bad thing. And what really started to make me think a lot more about that is when it became an issue for feminism and when it became an issue for women's rights. I am so like, I don't even know what I feel. I'm so mad, honestly, and so appalled by the fact that we cannot say women anymore. We can't say women have their periods. We can't say women have a vulva or a vagina. We can't say that women are pregnant. We cannot ask for female spaces only. We cannot say that lesbians like women, meaning females, most of the time. We cannot even talk about sex in any sort of way. We cannot talk about our daily reality without being called transphobic, without being called bigots, without being called out, without being completely attacked online, completely targeted. And it's happening in France too. It's happening to feminists who do not subscribe to the gender ideology. They are being ostracized. They are being completely rejected by the so-called feminist communities. They're attacked by a lot of trans activists, or people that call themselves trans activists, who, by the way, have a huge media coverage and who are invited everywhere, despite being, people that harass other women online. It's become, those women lose a lot of sponsorship, for example, because they say that, trans women may be trans women, but trans women are not females. Just because you say that in 2020, you are a bigot, you're a transphobe, and you're not worth anything anymore. You're not even allowed to call yourself a feminist. You're not even allowed to have your discourse and your arguments being heard. And this is so concerning. That's so dangerous. And I don't understand that so many people turn a blind eye to this. Gender, for me, is simply a set of stereotypes that are here to reinforce the idea of femininity and the idea of masculinity, which are both very toxic ideas in my opinion. And gender is in no way, to me, an innate truth of feeling. I completely I don't believe in non-binary at all. I think it's complete bullshit. I'm so sorry to say that, but that's really how I feel. Anyone is non-binary because nobody is binary when it comes to their identity. No one corresponds 100% or even 90%, I would say, to the feminine stereotypes or the masculine stereotypes. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean that I like, you know, pink, and I like children, and I like wearing dresses, and I want to be involved romantically with men, and I am a motherly person, and I'm sweet and soft, and I don't like sports, and I want to have long hair and wear makeup and shave. I mean, non-binary doesn't mean anything. Non-binary is so not feminist, and it's so not progressist. It is so based, and, you know, it originates from so much of the gender stereotypes that we're supposed to fight against, so that anybody can be whatever they want, and I mean whoever they want. So just the fact that we have to even take into consideration non-binary people when it comes to feminism, to me, is so disheartening and so annoying, and I refuse to do that. I will be very, very clear. I refuse to do that. You're either a female or a male, and yes, some people are intersex, and yes, some people are also transsexual or transgender, and those people undergo transition, and those people need the same rights as everybody else, and they need more protection as well because they're a minority. That's equity and not equality. But that's where I stand, and that's very simple, and that's very logical. And I am so sad to see that women who their voice, their opinion that way, are cancelled and attacked and harassed. Just look at what happened to J.K. Rowling. I think it's just so infuriating. And even that, J.K. Rowling has, you know, the means to protect herself and to defend herself and to have financial stability. But it's not the case for every woman who dares voice her opinion. And how can we accept that in the name of so-called activism, in the name of so-called even feminism, in the name of fighting for minorities? That doesn't make any sense. And I think that what a lot of people are afraid to say, that unfortunately the current trans activism is rooted in a lot of misogyny. It's a deeply misogynistic movement that is so far away from defending actual rights of trans people, that is so far away from being a legitimate and sensical movement. And I think this is going to backfire on so many people, including LGBT people, and including LGB people who have nothing to do with trans people, by the way. And the fact that so many people are just repeating whatever they hear, as, you know, it almost looks and feels sometimes like some sort of a cult. Like, you have to say trans women are women, trans women are women, trans women are women, and you're not even allowed to question anything. You're not even allowed to have the simplest nuance. I remember years ago I did a video about defending Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, because she said something along the lines of trans women are trans women, and I respect them and I have nothing against them, no problem whatsoever, but our experiences as females and as trans women are very different. Sometimes they correlate, sometimes they will come together, and we do share some sets of experiences, but for a lot of experience that we have, it's completely different. When you're born female, your experience of the world will be significantly different from the experience of someone who's born male, even if later in life they come to terms with the fact that they don't feel like a man, that something in their brain is not male. The experience is going to be different. The first experiences of sexuality, having your periods, being sexualized since you were born, being socialized and educated and like brought up as a girl, it's completely different from being brought up as a boy, even as a girly boy, even as a boy that everyone thinks is gay, for example. So, and for me, I had a personal experience. I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, when a male who identifies as non-binary, but not even feminine non-binary or something along those lines. But you know, no one would think of that person as anything else but a man. Full on beard, full on no transition whatsoever, masculine name, only wearing a little bit of makeup and sometimes dresses, but like no one thinks you're a girl. No one even hesitates, by the way. This person had the audacity to tell me that they had the same experience of sexism and of misogyny as I do, as a woman that obviously looks like a woman, that has always looked like a woman and has always been perceived as a woman by society. That really triggered something in me, and that's when I started opening my eyes, looking more into what trans activism unfortunately has become, and all the violence that's, you know, just sent to women that dare disagree and will not bend their knees in front of this so-called activism. The simple fact that we have the word TERF, which is actually a slur. It is a misogynistic slur. It's nothing else but that. That's already concerning. So that's really where I stand. I mean, there would be so many topics and subjects that we could concentrate on and focus on, but I don't really know if I want to talk about it that much. Honestly, I'm tired of talking about this. That's not something I like talking about. The only reason why I talk about this is because, as surprising and as honestly to me incredible as it sounds, I feel like in my situation, being a white woman in the Western world, this has become one of the most dangerous threats to me, to feminism. Of course, it's different in other parts of the world where we still have to worry about education, child marriage, human trafficking, most often women, of course, all those things. But in the Western world, where we have other issues to tackle as well, don't get me wrong, and I talk about those a lot, trans activism, gender ideology are becoming real threats to feminism and to women. And it's so disheartening because that's not something I ever wanted to see happen. And I think so many women opened their hearts, their places, their safest places, their feminist circle, their queer circles. I don't like the word queer, but anyway, their shelters, their everything to people, because to trans women, for example, or to trans people, to whatever, because at some point it was completely sensical, and what was said and expected and asked to me was completely normal. But now it's become incredibly confusing and dangerous and extreme. But you know, the doors now it feels like we cannot close the door anymore. Feels like women have welcomed the danger, and that's also very sad to realize. And of course, what's even sad, what's perhaps the saddest about that as well, is that so many women are actually turning into oppressors as well. I am attacked by a lot of women that would consider themselves cis women. They have no relationship whatsoever with trans identity and and being transgender or transsexual, but they just want to be perceived as the good allies, the good people, the woke people, and they will slander you, harass you, and that's sad. That's very sad to see that being done, and to see that being done in the name of feminism, and to see that everything you've done suddenly disappears. You've been here online talking about feminism for years. You've written books about feminism. You have been a very inspiring female figure in the cultural and in the media in the culture and in the media. You've been an academic and you've written extensively about that, and you've taught many people, and you've shared your knowledge and your experiences. You've given so much of yourself, but you dare say that trans women are not the same as females and trans women are not female, and you're completely erased and your whole person is destroyed by sometimes only teenagers who really don't know what they're talking about. And I don't even want to mention the big lobbying that's happening behind, but that's so sad. Honestly, that's so sad. And I'm very kind of anxious to put out this video. I've done this in French many times. I'm not anxious anymore, but English, it's the first time, so I don't know how it's going to be received. I hope you guys will understand, and I will of course moderate the comments a lot on this video. And thank you for watching it. Let me know what you think in a respectful way, of course. And I just want to say once again, I mean no harm to anybody. And I've never meant any harm to anybody. So yeah, I am going now. So thank you for watching this video, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.